Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Frishkopf from the University of Alberta in Canada, and my talk is entitled Constructing a Linked Digital Archive, the Alexandru Wahba Collection of Egyptian Folk Music. Tiberiu Alexandru was a Romanian folklorist, ethnomusicologist, and organologist, and a student of the Romanian composer, ethnomusicologist, and folklorist Constantine Brăiuloiu. Alexandru adopted his teacher's systematic scientific methods for studying folk music. From 1957 to 1974, he served as chief of the music section of the Institute of Ethnography and Folklore in Bucharest. In 1965, he was invited to Egypt to conduct musicological research at Cairo's Folklore Center, founded in 1958, where he undertook the collection of folk music around the country, collaborating with an Egyptian folklorist, Emil Azer Wahba. These expeditions led to the production of two historic albums in 1967 and 1970. First, The Folk Music of Egypt, based on research from 1965 to 1967, and published by the United Arab Republic Ministry of Culture in 1967, with recordings made throughout Egypt, including in Marsa Matruh, indicated by the red dot, which I'll talk about later. And secondly, Nubia Folk Melodies, based on research during the same period, but published in 1970. Tracks were collected from the Aswan area, just north of Lake Nasser. Out of 25 hours of field recordings, just 3 hours were released on the two albums. The 1960s was the perfect decade to collect Egyptian folk music, nurtured by Arab socialism and Egyptian nationalism under President Gamal Abdel Nasser. Shortly after publication of the first album came Egypt's 1967 defeat. During the 70s and 80s, traditional performance culture of rural lifeways was rapidly lost due to encroaching capitalism, Islamic revival, urbanization, electrification, and mediaization, among other factors. Radio and TV began to dominate rural Egypt. Musicking became more passive, and folk music traditions declined. The two albums thus became classics in ethnomusicology. In 1990, I studied them in Professor A.J. Rossi's Arab music course at UCLA. Then, 27 years later, out of the blue, I received an email from Emil Wahba himself, 50 years after publication of the first album. It turned out I had been recommended by a friend, Dr. George Sawa, an Egyptian ethnomusicologist and qanun virtuoso living in Toronto. Dear Professor Michael Frishkopf, a few days ago I had a discussion with my dear friend Professor George Sawa concerning the folkloric material I collected from all over Egypt under the supervision of my Romanian professor, Dr. Tiberiu Alexandru. We collected our materials from the field. We used special forms, as you do in Romania. Each performer has a form, as well as a form for recorded songs or music. We used to take a picture for our performer and attach it to their form. We recorded almost 25 hours, good quality recording with plenty of black and white pictures and slides. The Ministry of Culture in Egypt published 2 discs. These 2 discs used only 3 hours from total 25-hour recordings. The ministry printed 3,000 discs only. The Folklore Center disintegrated and a lot of material disappeared. I came to Canada in 1970. I brought all the material I collected, pictures, slides, field documents, filed by my handwriting in Arabic, and the tapes, which I keep them in a safe. I was planning to use this material, establish a mini archive, because it is very rare material now. I worked in McGill University Library till age 72. I am 80 and I'm having a health problem. I hope that you will be interested and to help me before I pass away. I wish you and your family health, peace, and Happy New Year. Thank you. Yours truly, Emil A. Wahba. So he wished to donate the entire collection to the Canadian Centre for Ethnomusicology. Subsequent conversations revealed that he also wished all the materials to be made publicly available for educational use. I arranged for shipment from Montreal. In March 2018, the materials arrived in an old suitcase. The contents of that suitcase included all the original fieldwork materials, 57 envelopes containing 1,681 sheets and 454 photos, 128 color slides, 17 rolls of black and white 35mm film negatives, long curled in canisters, 10 reels of magnetic tape, everything over 50 years old and crumbling. Some of the key issues that I faced were preservation, digitization, translation and transliteration, access, rights, and especially relations between elements. The many fieldwork materials were related in complex ways. An artist or instrument could appear on multiple recordings. A recording could feature multiple artists and instruments. Photos might relate to multiple artists, instruments, or genres. These elements, in my opinion, should be linked, the whole to form a network. I pondered how to design an online system capable of representing such networked relationships. In search of advice on all of these issues, I consulted with our library's media experts, especially Sean, my co-presenter, as well as our Arts Resource Center in the Faculty of Arts. Teamwork would clearly be required between the Canadian Centre for Ethnomusicology, the Arts Resource Center, and the University of Alberta Library. Digitizing the reels was not easy. We did this in-house. It was a tricky operation due to the undocumented presence of multiple tape speeds on a single reel. Evidently, as a reel began to run out, they would slow the tape recorder down. But thankfully, the tape was in pretty good shape. Here's an image of the box with all of the contents written down in Arabic and the tapes. Hundreds of slides and rolls of negatives, images of performers and instruments were outsourced to be scanned by a professional firm recommended by the library. There were some beautiful pictures in the collection: the arghul, the tambour, the rababa, the violin, which I'd never seen in Egypt played in this way, ensembles, various wind instruments, the baza, an instrument which is rarely heard today, the duf. There was even a picture of the recording process itself. The Canadian Centre for Ethnomusicology research assistant and doctoral student Subhash Giri scanned all the paper, including person and song forms, prepared in the Romanian style, as well as photographic prints. Here's an example of a person form. And here's an example of a performance form. Here's an example of a track from Marsa Matruh, the place I indicated with a red dot on the map. What is required to represent this corpus, including all the relationships between elements? It is a network of objects or classes, each documented with textual metadata. First of all, objects, which I define as static digital audiovisual files, tracks, images, and scans of paper. There are also classes, which are abstractions: people, instruments, songs, places, and other things like genres, styles, contexts, and so on. Each object or class is documented with textual metadata linked according to logical relationships, enabling queries and browsing. So here's a network. Here's a track. Performer plays on that track and plays an instrument, which plays in the track. That track is documented with a performance form, providing the date, lyrics, and so on. And the performer is documented with a performer form, providing biographical information. The instrument is documented by a photo that depicts the instrument. And the performer also is documented by a photo that depicts the performer. And the instrument plays in another track, which instantiates a song. Maybe both tracks instantiate the same song. The performer plays on another track, which is documented by another performance form. And another performer plays on that same track and is documented by a form and plays an instrument, which is depicted in a photo. That performer plays on another track, which is associated with a place, the location of that track, which happens to be the same location where the performer photo was taken and the instrument photo was taken. Such a scheme is sometimes called linked data. A collection then consists of a set of triples, two nodes and a relationship between them. Performer plays on a track. Each triple comprises a subject, a predicate, and an object. Queries can then be formulated as network intersections. Show me all the tracks for performer X. Show me all tracks in place Y. Show me all tracks for performer X in place Y. Resources at the University of Alberta Library include Aviary, ERA, a repository for documents, and an underlying permanent, stable, redundant storage system. The Arts Resource Center is providing a system they're provisionally calling Catfish. So the structure looks like this. The library provides backend storage for objects with textual metadata, tracks, images, forms. Aviary provides space for the audio tracks and their metadata, and ERA provides space for images and scans with their metadata. ARC's Catfish provides the front end, as well as storage of classes with their textual metadata. That is representation of people, instruments, songs, places, and genres, styles, and contexts, other abstractions. It also stores the network links, that is the triples. The Canadian Centre for Ethnomusicology Archive has also partnered with Canada's Links project, Linked Infrastructure for Networked Cultural Scholarship, building a triple store for the exploration of cultural data in Canada, integrating heterogeneous archival collections into a single massive knowledge graph. Formulated as a set of triples, the Alexandria Wahba collection of Egyptian folk music could be ingested by links and thereby connected to a wider world of linked open data. We hope to complete this project in the coming year.